The Bridge of Faith. On the misty, pine-clad slopes of Mount Serenity, where the clouds often gathered like soft, white blankets, stood a small stone hermitage. It was a simple dwelling, home to only 2 souls, a wise old teacher named Master Elian and his young, devoted disciple, Leo. Master Elian was a man whose wisdom was as deep and ancient as the mountain itself. His words were like polished river stones, smooth, simple, and carrying great weight. He taught that the world was governed by divine laws, and that the greatest of these was the law of faith. Leo, in turn, was the perfect student. His heart was an open book, and his trust in his master's teachings was a bright, unblemished flame. He spent his days meditating, studying the sacred texts, and tending to the small garden of herbs that clung to the mountainside. One morning, Master Elian called to him. "Leo," he said, his calm eyes fixed on the valley below. "The village of Meadowsweet is running low on feverfew for their remedies. The journey is long, but the need is great. You must take them a bundle of our finest herbs before nightfall." Leo bowed his head in obedience. "As you wish, Master." He carefully wrapped the fragrant herbs in a cloth, secured them to his back, and began the winding descent down the mountain path. The morning was clear and bright, with the sun warming his shoulders. But the mountain's moods were notoriously fickle. He had not been walking for more than an hour when the sky, with alarming speed, bruised to a deep, angry purple. The wind began to howl through the pines, and the first fat drops of rain began to fall. Within minutes, a gentle shower had become a torrential downpour. The rain came in solid silver sheets, turning the dusty path into a treacherous river of mud. The world was reduced to a roaring, watery chaos. Frightened and soaked to the bone, Leo lost his nerve. He turned and scrambled back up the path to the hermitage, bursting through the door like a frightened animal. "Master!" he cried, shivering as water pooled around his feet. "I cannot go on. The storm is a monster. It has swallowed the path. It is impossible." Master Elian looked not at Leo's drenched state, but into his fearful eyes. He placed a steady hand on the boy's shoulder. "The storm is not the problem, Leo," he said, his voice a quiet anchor in the tempest. "The problem is the storm within your heart. You have forgotten the most important lesson. You should have faith. God is the master of the wind and the rain. Trust in him, and he will shield you from all troubles." His words settled Leo's frantic heart. A profound sense of shame washed over him, followed by a renewed determination. He bowed deeply. "Forgive my weakness, Master. I will go." He turned and walked back out into the deluge. But this time he was not alone. With every step, he whispered a simple prayer, a quiet mantra of trust that pushed back against the roar of the storm. He soon came to a place where a gentle stream usually trickled across the path. Today, it was a raging brown torrent, wide and impassable. As despair began to prick at him, he closed his eyes and recited his master's words. When he opened them, his gaze fell upon a great fallen oak tree just upstream, its trunk forming a sturdy natural bridge to the other side. He gave thanks and crossed with care. Further down, the path had vanished completely beneath a landslide of mud and rock. It seemed his journey was truly over. Yet, as he stood calmly, his heart full of faith rather than panic, he noticed something he would have otherwise missed. A faint, narrow goat track winding its way steeply up and around the blockage. It was a difficult climb, but it was a way through. Finally, he reached the most feared part of the journey, the Gorge of Whispers, a deep, rocky chasm that was now a cauldron of churning, furious water. This was the deep drain that collected all the runoff from the higher slopes. To be swept away here meant certain death. Leo felt a flicker of the old fear, but he held fast to his faith. He chanted the name of God, and as he did, the chaos seemed to find a strange order. He saw a line of sturdy, moss-slicked rocks just breaking the surface of the water, forming a perilous but possible crossing. His focus absolute, he stepped from one to the next, his feet finding purchase where seemed none should exist, and safely reached the other side. He arrived in Meadowsweet as dusk was falling, delivered the precious herbs, and returned to the hermitage with a quiet, unshakable joy in his heart. He had faced the impossible, and through faith had conquered it. The very next day, the storm had passed, leaving behind a world washed clean and glistening. It was Master Elian's turn to make a journey along the same route to visit an old scholarly friend in the valley. He saw the scars of the storm, the fallen oak, the landslide, and the still swollen gorge, and nodded, pleased that his student had overcome such trials. He navigated the log and the goat track with the ease of a man who knew the mountain intimately. But when he arrived at the Gorge of Whispers, he paused. The water was still high and dangerously swift. He looked at the line of slippery rocks that Leo had crossed. Master Elian, a man of great intellect, began to analyze the problem. The current is strong here, he thought. This rock is slick with algae. That one looks unstable. Faith is a noble principle for the spirit, but this is a matter of physics. Can I truly trust that I will not fall? A seed of doubt, planted by his own logical mind, began to sprout. He looked at the churning water and saw not a path, but a threat. He heard not the whisper of God, but the roar of danger. He held the words of faith in his mind, but he did not feel them in his heart. Hesitantly, he placed a foot on the first stone. His uncertainty made his step unsteady. As he shifted his weight, his foot slipped on the wet moss. For a terrifying moment, he flailed, his arms grasping at empty air. Then the icy water snatched him. His heavy ropes became a leaden weight, and the roar of the torrent swallowed his cry. The great teacher, the man who had given the gift of faith to his student, was taken by the very water his disciple had crossed. For it is not the depth of the water that drowns a man, but the depth of his doubt. Leo, the student, had learned the lesson his master had taught with his words, but Elian, the master, had tragically failed the test he had set with his life.